Yes, sir. Bless you.
Those of you who want to worship God with us, you can. Real simple, it says, my God is awesome. My God is
awesome. He can move mountains. Keep me in the valley.
Hide me from the rain.
Hide me from the rain.
My God is awesome.
My God is awesome.
He heals me when I'm broken.
Heals me when I'm broken.
Strength where I've been weakened.
Strength where I've been weak.
Forever He will reign.
Forever He will reign.
If you believe that, say it with us. Our God is awesome.
My God is awesome.
He can move mountains.
He can move mountains.
Keep me in the valley.
Keep me in the valley.
And hide me from the rain.
Hide me from the rain.
My God is awesome.
My God is awesome.
He heals me when I'm broken.
Heals me when I'm broken.
Strength where I've been weak.
Where I've been weak.
Forever He will reign.
Forever He will reign.
Now if you believe that, say, my God. My God.
Awesome.
Come on, help us say awesome.
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 Say, my God.
My God is awesome.
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 Come on, praise Him, minister. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
My God.
My God is awesome.
Savior of the whole world.
Savior of the whole.
Giver of salvation.
Giver of salvation.
By His stripes I'm healed.
By His stripes we are healed.
My God is awesome.
My God is awesome.
Today I'm forgiven.
Today I am forgiven.
His grace is why I'm living.
Grace is why I'm living.
Somebody praise His holy name.
Praise His holy name.
If you believe that, come on, shout it out. My God.
My God is awesome.
Anybody know He is?
Awesome.
Come on, say awesome.
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 Say, my God.
My God is awesome.
Somebody say He is.
Awesome.
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 Let's
you help me say, my God is? Can we call his name? Jesus. 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 He's awesome. Oh, yes, he is. One more time. Hey, protector. 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 Hey, protector. Awesome. Help me sing. My God.
He can move mountains. Keep me in the valley. God, you can hide me from the rain. Woo! That's it, my God. Today I'm forgiven. His grace is why I'm living. That's it. Praise his holy name. Somebody bless him. Somebody give him glory. You're awesome. 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 Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Hey. Hallelujah.
How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will sing, how great is our God.
Amen. I don't want to fool with that. Just thank God for his goodness. This is another day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We're not happy about everything that happens today, but we're glad to be in this number one more time. To our constant growing team of worshipers and believers who just say, Lord, use what we have for your glory. I thank God for their efforts, and I thank God for your accepting and receiving your reception. Right after service tonight, we're going to have a quick take-home meal for those of you who can spare to make a donation. If you need help with your donation, you know, to ask the person next to you. They'll bless you. We have plates in the restaurant for $5 right afterwards, and someone please remind me of that. I know that everybody in this room tonight has been busy, and I know sometimes busy is moving a lot, sometimes busy is standing still, sometimes busy is taking care of other people's issues, but your busy did not keep you tonight from being in church or online, and I thank you for that. Can I say something that I don't always admit to people? Somebody asked me the other day, I get nervous every time God's getting ready to make a major move, and he asked me to navigate it. I'd rather follow other people that are leaders and in charge, and I just believe in my heart that God's making another move forward. And every time I have to stand to bat, I'd rather cheer on the sideline sometimes than have to, because there's a price to pay whenever you're used by God. You're standing on your feet tonight, and you're representing someone who's laying flat on their backs. You've been chosen by God to stand on your feet. Yeah. You're here knowing that your child is already in school. We're already for some school districts into that third week where we're at that pass or failure notice, and some things that your child has tried to accomplish and achieve have not been fulfilled. But you're standing here for someone else who doesn't know how to get up from a setback. You made it to church tonight. And so I'm going to ask you as we pray tonight for you to understand my role tonight real easy. And I'll always say this until God says stop saying it. My role tonight is simply to be the sower. I will be the sower. I will use the seed to plant into you the good soil. I will plant into you the seed. You are the good soil. I don't care how rough your life is, how tough your edges are, you are still good soil. And I need you to start seeing yourself as being worthy to receive the seed. You missed what I just said. I need you to start seeing yourself as being worthy to receive the seed. Sometimes you don't think you're worthy of it. And so you look for a moment that sounds good. God says, I'm going to sow this into you, because there are some things he's going to say tonight that God's never laid on my heart to say publicly. And I just know it's time for him to move forward in somebody's life. There's a person next to you that may not have been here before. It could be a first-time person on the internet. It's always important to know when you walk into church, what's that church about? What's it? What got it where it is? How did it get that far? How did it get where it is, Lola? And are they willing to share it? And every time we tell people how we got this far, or how the Lord blessed us, there seems to be another secret formula that they're looking for. But we all know, say it is what it is. Say it is what it is. So my question tonight to you is, what is it? This is the word of God. This is my word from God. In obedience to this word is the only weapon that I have. If I read this word and do exactly as it says, what is the book of Joshua, chapter number 1, I'm going to prosper. And I'm going to prosper in every area of my life. I can be what this word says I can be. I can do what this word says I can do. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father, for revealing your word to me tonight. Would you repeat after me if there's any speech left in your mouth? Lord, I come tonight realizing that because of your son Jesus, I am worthy to receive a word from you. I'm asking you tonight to forgive me of all of my sins and shortcomings, and clean me up so that I can receive this word with joy. Fill me now, Lord, with your Holy Spirit. I'm asking you because I need to make room for this other seed. I have so much seed in me, things will keep growing way after I die. There's so much seed that I'm planting that things will still have a harvest after I leave here. And I just thank you for more seed to plant on good soil. Have your way, Lord. Amen. Give somebody a high five. That was some good soil prayer right there. Shake hands with your soil brother. Let's sit down, put our seatbelts on, sit as quiet as we can, or make as much noise as you can to God, and then let's move forward. Now, here we go. I'm not going to go into any explanations about what these next 3 nights are. I'm just going to ask everybody, if you don't mind, please have your children on time, and those of you that are here, if you would not sit in the back sections, please continue to sit forward so that we can hear what God has to say to us. And maybe there's someone that'll sit next to you that'll practice good manners because you're sitting next to them, and they'll understand that because you're sitting next to them, they might need to be mindful of how they hear, and someone may not have a Bible, or they may have a question, and you can stop me in the middle of the message, even if they may be embarrassed or ashamed or say, oh, I can't do that. Let them know we're just sitting down here now talking with the preacher. That's what we're doing. We're not going to get distracted because of who we are and where we are. But tonight you're going to see something in this word. Every time I use anything that refers to sheep, anytime I use anything that refers to sheep, I want you to think about yourself. Anytime I use any reference to anything that refers to sheep, I want you to think personally about yourself. I want you to think personally about you. There is a scripture here. I'm just going to read it from the old Bible, the paper Bible. Y'all remember that noise right there? You ain't heard that in a long time, man. I just want to do something before we start. If you have a Bible that's made out of paper, I don't care where you're turning. Can you just let me hear it for a minute? Boy, can anybody? Boy, no, just flip it like, I want to hear some papers. Boy, that's awfully quiet now. But that's all right. I just wanted to hear it. I make my own noise. Sometimes I just go through. But let me share something with you. It says here in the Bible, and this is not where we're I don't know if we're going here or not. It says, the Lord is my shepherd. David wrote these lyrics. David was a psalmist. So when you read the book of Psalms, they're not going to be in chapters like everywhere else in the Bible. There is no 23rd chapter. There's just Psalms. They're like songs. They're verses. They're like lyrics. So David, in the midst of all of his rough times, he would stop down and write a song. So even though things were tough, David would write a song about it. So when we go through the Psalms, we're talking about reading a man's lyrics. We're talking about reading somebody's love letter. And so he had this relationship with God, and so he was able to have these songs that he would come up with. And one of the Psalms in his 23rd song, or his 23rd lyric, or his 23rd version of whatever he was writing about, he said, the Lord is my shepherd, and he said, I shall not want. And then he says something, and I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to stop here for a minute, because I think he's talking like you're talking now. He said, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. Now, all of the years I've pastored or preached, I've talked a lot about this, but I've never in my life, God has never allowed me to go where I'm going these next 2-3 nights. I've never been here before. I've never been here, and you know why? It's because we've never been here, and we've never been where we're about to go. So he said, he makes me to lie down in green pastures, all right? Then he said, he leads me beside still waters. And tonight I want to stop right here where he says, he restores my soul. Look at somebody and say, I've been damaged. He restores my soul. Down in Psalms 42 and 11, it says, why art thou cast down, O my soul? Okay, so right off the bat, let's get started. David said, the Lord restored my what? And then right here down in the 42nd Psalms, he's asking, why art thou cast down? Key word here tonight. We're going to look at this word. Why art thou cast down, O my soul? David's already said that he restores my soul. Okay, but down in 42nd Psalms, he says, he said, why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet praise him, who is the health of my countenance, and he is my God. Now, that's the King James Version. We're going to look at the same thing and well, I'm going to read it from the Message Bible. I have it here in the Message Bible. The Message Bible version. Blah, 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 blah. It says, while you're so down in the dumps, dear soul. Okay. Then it says, while you're crying the blues. He says to himself, fix my eyes on God, and soon I will be praising again. He's put a smile on my face. He is my God. That was the Message version of that same Psalms 42:11. And we say that because tonight we want to use this one word subject, but I want to use this one word here. But I want to ask this question. Am I restored or destroyed? Tonight's message is on restored or destroyed. We every once in a while come in here every 2 or 3 months. I don't know what the next schedule is. And we call these 3 nights buying us some more time. And we're going to got to buy some more time because somebody in this room, you're running out of time. And when you start running out of time, you start doing things outside of the time zone. So what do you do if you want more time? You got to sow more time, and that's why we tithe. You're not giving God all of your time, so quit patting yourself on the back. Quit wanting somebody to give you a trophy when you come in and say, ooh, at least I hustled and tried. You're tithing that. You hustle and try to do a whole lot of things. Now, this next couple of days is not a massage therapy. It's a soul restorer. Everything now seems to be careful what you say because you don't want to hurt anybody. Everybody wants to get in the game, but nobody wants to get hit. So if this is practice, God says, I want you to get used to a couple of things. I want you, first of all, to get used to being in the game. Those of you that are ushers on the door, if you can just give me one usher on the door, everybody else on some notes, that'll be great. Somebody in the aisle, make sure we're ushering and getting everybody together because I know you guys come in and you want this word just as much as everybody else. So let's do what he says here. Now, I want to say some things. Remember, every time I talk about a sheep, I want you to put yourself in that particular verse. Just keep thinking about you because I'm going to go in a lot of different directions here to go into one area so that I can make sure that every child, every adult, every child that's going to succeed, every adult that's overcome anything, every adult that's going through something, you don't think you're going to get through this one this time. I want you to hear what God says. On nights like these and days like these, Satan goes overtime because he knows that if you hear, faith cometh by hearing. And if you just happen to hear God say something these next couple of nights, you're going to beat Satan at his game. So this is the time when you say, well, I'm not going, I'm not listening, I'm not really focused, I got other things to do. Satan knows exactly what he's doing and when to launch his most effective attacks. So in studying this psalm, we got to remember that it's the sheep that this shepherd is taking care of. Okay? And it's a Christian's claim of belonging to the family of God. When we start talking about the sheepfold, we belong to the family of God. Now, this being the case, Why then is this statement made? If we know that we're in the family of God, if we know that we belong to God, why, if we belong to God, why must we say, He restoreth my soul? Now, as I've mentioned before, sometimes, we think that as Christians, and we've been told and we've been made to believe that we don't ever get deflated. And therefore, we have to always lie, pretend, and act like everything's working at 100. And it would be assumed that anyone that is one of God's children would always never become so distressed in his soul that he would need restoration. I mean, you're a church person. You're a Christian. You love the Lord, and you need to be restored. I mean, you're the preacher. You're a Sunday school teacher. You lead the music group. You lead the choir. You're over the children's ministry. What do you need to be restored for? You're the one who's blessing other people. The fact remains that this does happen, though. And even David, that's how we got in this Psalms tonight, who was much loved of God, he knew what it meant to be, now remember this word, he knew what it meant to be cast down and dejected. Now I want you to remember that word, cast down. He had tasted defeat in his life, and he had been frustrated, and he had fallen under temptation. Everything that could happen to a man of God happened to David. He didn't just get tempted, he fell into it. He didn't just fight, he got defeated. Does anybody get that? David was acquainted with the bitterness of feeling hopelessness and without strength in himself. He's the one that said, I encourage myself in the Lord. Now here's this guy that was God's chosen man, a man after God's own heart. And David was in reality a big-time loser, but he was on a winning team. No. He was not God's number one draft choice, but he came off the bench and changed the game. And Psalms 42, he just read to us, why art thou cast down, O my soul? Why art thou disquieted within me? Then he starts talking about hope thou in God. Now there is a parallel to this in caring for sheep. And I want to hurry up and get to that part, because the message words tonight are restored or destroyed. You have to decide where you are right now. You have to decide that. You could be on the destroyed end, coming here praying and saying, Lord, I need to be restored. And listen to me, that's cool with me. I'm okay. Or you could be right now in this area of being restored. You know what that meant? You just came out of being destroyed. And that's good with me. But since you made this effort to come out tonight, let's not play with it. You either are or you are. Right now, sitting in here, you are either restored or you're destroyed. Now, some of you may say, well, I'm on my way. That's not one of our options tonight. I'm in between the boat. No, that's wishy-washy. You're either cold or you're hot. You either know that he will or you know that he will. Y'all don't come on now. No, don't come on now. That's not the kind of, but come on now. You either know that he will or you know that he will. And if you don't know that he will, in a minute, you'll know that he will. Because if you've ever been here and you're sitting here tonight, I want you to know you know that he will. But if you're right here, right now, and you're restored, that means you've been destroyed, and you know that he will. Won't he do it? Don't worry about that. Boy, I could have had an organ and a drum right there and turned it out. You didn't have to learn nothing. Just would have hollered, I would have been all right. So only those who are acquainted with sheep and their habits, because most of us here in Dallas don't know about sheep. I just thank God I know a little bit about sheep. I've raised whole bunch of different animals. I've raised sheep and goat. But those who are acquainted with sheep understand the habits of sheep. And so here's a word here that we're going to learn tonight that'll help us understand sheep, and it's the word cast. The word cast. Now remember, he talks about being, and the whole time we talk about in the Bible, I've never heard anybody, and it's okay that I've never heard anything. I just learned I don't hear a lot. But everybody talk about, because see, this is stuff you don't bring up. You can't bring this up because you got to know where that comes from. And he's saying, hey, anointed person that you are. What does soul and cast down have to do with each other? Well, you're going to have to know the importance of David using what he knew to talk about what he had to talk about. Sometimes we're trying to talk about stuff we don't know. David didn't know iPad. David didn't know technology. David didn't know muffler and transmission. David knew what? Sheep. So you talk about what? If you're a lawyer, you don't talk about medical exams. You talk about the law. Now, during the law, you may learn some medical terms, but you don't go in and do the autopsy. You leave that to the coroner's office and the examiner. David knew sheep. Okay? So if David knew sheep and David became a shepherd, if David knew sheep, tonight, remember, we are God's what? Okay. So for him to talk about being cast down meant it had to do something with sheep. And so now we're going to see what the significance of cast, because anytime you ever hear somebody their soul being cast, you're going to have a whole different, they're going to just hear from you. They're going to have a different explanation. They're going to have to go, oh no, not now, because you're going to preach to them. So get your stuff ready to be ready. You're going to preach now. So what God is doing to you tonight is loading you up for someone else who's low down. Now you're going to find these words that God's given the sower to put into you, the good soil, to bless someone else. Please don't think that every message is for you to wave your hand and run up an aisle. God is loading you up for someone else who would never raise up their hands until they lift up their heads. And they're not going to lift up their heads until you put something in their soul. And what you're feeding into their soul has got to come from the seed. Because we got too many talk shows now, too many other opinions, too many inspirational moments. And we're using everything except God's word. Because everybody's got good ideas. So let's talk about it now. There's an old English term for a sheep that has been overturned on its back and can't get up by itself. I talked about this a little bit several years ago, but that word is called cast. So this is the first word you might want to write down in your notes. It's and remember, and we just talked about David saying to himself, why are you cast down, oh my soul? So there's a word. It comes from the old English term for a sheep that's been turned upside down. Now, a cast sheep is a pathetic sight, y'all. Because what it is, it's a sheep lying on his back with his feet straight up in the air, kind of in the air, and it's kicking around, struggling, and trying to stand up, and it is not successful. I said it is trying to stand up, and it is not successful. This is the story. I'm talking about what? And so can you imagine if I was talking about sheep? I want you, when I say 3, to say your name. 1, 2, 3. Sheep. On your back. Flapping your legs. Trying to get up. Listen to me. Without success. Now I want you to hear this. The sheep that are cast down are on their back flopping. And sometimes it'll make a little noise and ask for a little help. But generally it lies there just lashing about, frightened and frustrated. Because it has turned over on his back. In other words, young people, it has been what? It has been what? Hint. It has been cast. Now, it's not going to do you or me any good for you to drive as far as you drove tonight if God's not going to teach you something that you didn't know. I want to be approved by God. I've tried to be accepted by people. That just doesn't work with me all the time. So in order to be approved by God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, he told me to study, to show myself approved. And I don't always know where I'm going when I'm studying. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't have a subject that I'm teaching. I just go and I study a word, and God will tell me because I give God strict instructions. Look, when I finally lay down dead to my senses, you can use me in my sleep. Or anything that happens during the day that you want me to use, show it to me, Lord. The sheep is upside on his backside or on his back leg slipping around. Now, if the owner does not get on the scene within a reasonably short time, the sheep will die. Pastor, what's up? That's what's up. If the owner of the sheep does not get to the point where that sheep is on his back in a reasonable time, he's got a certain amount of time to get there. If he doesn't get there on time, the sheep will die. Let's talk about two definitions right quick, because when I say the owner, I'm going to use the word in a minute. It's going to be called the sheepman. Sheepman, okay? That's the S-H-E-E-P-M-A-N, sheepman. Now, what we're used to talking about is the shepherd. And there is a difference between the sheepman and the shepherd. And I want you to understand the difference between the sheepman and the shepherd, because when I start talking about the shepherd in a minute, you're going to think I'm talking about the sheepman. And when I start talking about the sheepman, if I don't teach you what the sheepman is, you're going to think I'm talking about the shepherd. So before we get too far, let's go into knowing who's who. See, the shepherd is the person who guides the sheep. He tends to the sheep. He protects the sheep. He herds the sheep and guards the sheep. All right? But he doesn't own the sheep. He's a shepherd. Somebody put him in charge. Now, the sheepman is the person who's, he's tending to the breeding of the sheep. He's got to make sure that some babies come out of these sheep. He just doesn't want anything in the pasture eating up his grass. He wants there to be some babies coming from these sheep. And so he is the owner of the sheep. He owns the sheep. The sheepman owns the sheep. The shepherd works for the sheepman. Got it? David was a shepherd. He didn't own the sheep. Okay, so we're going to just talk about that in a natural sense for just a second. So now, to be cast means to be what? Turned over on your back. And can you get up? Can you get up? Can you get up? If a sheep is on his back, can he get up? Please don't misunderstand that, because if this ever becomes yes, you no longer need the sheepman. Some of you have gotten by, but you thought you got up. You just learned how to move on your back. No, I don't even mean to motivate you to think you can get up without God. And I'm sorry, a lot of talk shows, I'm sorry, a lot of celebrity Christianity has made you think so. God never intended for you to be able to succeed without him. Now, he will give you grace and make you make it while you waiting on your mind, making up your mind as to who's going to help you. Let me get back over here, because there I went with that finger and I'm preaching again. If he doesn't get there, the sheep dies. And that's another reason why it's so important for a careful sheepman to look over his flock every day. Shepherds have days off. Sheepmen don't. So he goes out there and he counts them to see if they're able to be seen, and to see how many of them are strong enough to stay on their feet. And if one or two are missing, first thought comes to his mind is, one of my sheep, if he's not with the flock, if he's not with the flock. And some of you don't like the flock. You like being on your own Christianity, your own God. Sometimes I said to God, told us tonight, start fellowship, get a little closer to sit together. I don't want to sit with anybody else, Pastor. But God has taught me over so many years of pastoring, watch that sheep that's not with the group. Because if that sheep is not with the group, that means you won't start counting that sheep. And if you don't count that person feels as if there's no count. And if there's no count, it's because they're somewhere and they are what? Cast. She's upside down. He's upside down. And he doesn't think that he counts. And eventually you'll hear him talk about how the preacher doesn't care, the church doesn't care. He or she does not like to be in the fellowship with the others. Because darkness doesn't like when light shows up. He says, one of my sheep is cast somewhere, and I got to go and search for that sheep. And when I go search for that sheep, it's okay for him to eat another piece of grass, but I know my sheep. My sheep always move in herds together. And if I see one sitting out there, I know that's not normal. One thing happened to the fellowship of the church. It became mega. That's not a word mentioned in the Bible. The world called us mega church. That meant we got more room to spread out so that we can't tell when somebody else is hurting. That's not negative. This is tithing your time. This is first and second service, getting it together. When that sheep is cast, I want you to look at this picture. You probably can't see it too well, and I'm not going to be able to control it here. I want the members of my team, I want you to see what casting looks like. Now, we're going to probably run this a few times. I'm going to ask you guys if y'all can help me to manipulate it here, because I don't want to manipulate it from my screen. If y'all can push play and give me some kind of a mobile on that, a video. Can y'all do that? I want the young people to be able to see it. If not, I'll make sure that we get it by tomorrow or something. Can y'all run that? We can't. Can we do it? Okay, do it. So we can't, Brian, team? Can we do it? Okay, we're trying to hit it. Okay, and I just have, so you look at that sheep. Now when I tell y'all to pause, can y'all pause it? Stop. We're going to just look at it. Just stop it. Pause it. There you go. Now, notice around him. How many sheep do you see around him? When we talk about sheep tonight, who are we talking about? This is you now. This is us. This is where Satan likes us. And this is why some of you don't like church, because church doesn't include that. So according to God, now you can come with your opinion and all your research, but according to God, if the sheepman sees one of his sheep not with the others, and you may think, there's no way you know all of them. He bought them. He knows them. He paid for them. They wear his brand. You talking God here. You think he doesn't know who you are? You think he doesn't know everything about you? You don't think he knows when you're happy, when you're sad? He bought you. He purchased you. He made you. He designed you. You are a designer's touch. If you got a coat with 6 buttons on it, don't you have common sense? Can't you look down and notice one of your buttons is not there? If you got a coat with 88 buttons, can't you tell when one button is missing? Can't you tell it? Somebody say yes or something. All right. Then God has more sense than we do. He can tell when one of you are trying to separate. And the only reason a believer separates is because he's cast. And that sheep is cast because the sheep now is in the process of dying. He is in the process. I know he's cute. I know he's precious. But sheep never get cast until it's time for them to die. And the only way that the sheepman And I'm going to hit that video again in a minute. But the only way that the sheepman noticed that the sheep was not with the group or exactly where he was, he saw buzzards. If y'all don't know what a buzzard or a vulture is, it's a bird with long black-tipped wings. And they sense when something is dying. And they'll hang around it because they eat the flesh of others. Y'all missed that. Ain't nobody hanging around you because you cute. You got a job, sister. Ain't nobody with you, brother, because you so fine. You got a job. And a buzzard knows that you're not a tither, and he knows in just a minute he can become a beneficiary. So what he... So the sheepman is out there, and the shepherd's watching, but the sheepman looks up and goes, there's a buzzard lurking around up in here. So that means somebody's being sought. And so the sheepman follows the buzzard. Wolves hate to be identified. You would have a church full of men, a church full of boys, a church full of somebody, anybody else if you took off your discernment and stopped identifying. People leaving church, something going on. You know what's going on? Identification. Buzzard alert, buzzard alert, buzzard alert, buzzard alert, buzzard alert, buzzard alert, buzzard alert. And so he eventually finds the field where that sheep is. Now again, you focus on something totally different. You focus on this. Is that sheep around green pastures? All right then. So it couldn't be over there because it's hungry. Is that sheep alone? And because of what you've learned about casting already, is that sheep dying? So that sheep needs who? His mama? His daddy? Baby sheep? He needs who? He needs the sheepman. The shepherd might alert the sheep, and then the shepherd could very much so in the natural do this, but the shepherd is tending to the other. There's a story in the Bible where it says, and it talks about the shepherd leaving the 99. I don't know why pastors seem to always be talking to him. Seem like he spends more time with him. I don't know why the preachers and why everybody else is always talking to her. She seems to get more attention. Have you ever thought, is that a pretty sheep? Yeah, that's a pretty sheep right there. That's a pretty one. Most of them don't look that pretty. I'm so sorry for some of you who've been cast because people didn't think that somebody who looks as good as you needed help getting up. Listen, if that sheep could get up on its own, we wouldn't be watching this film. Let's just okay, push play again. Just y'all stay focused and push the play on me because no, the video. Go back there and push the play on the video. And so probably if I pause too long, it may go away. So you see him, he's cast, and they don't holler, they don't scream. Sheep don't make noises. Every once in a while they make what they call a bleat, but they don't do. So he just kick, and you're watching him die. And as we fade into this thing, freeze it, stop, pause. Good. That's why I control it here, because they in church too back there. Notice the surface of where his head is. That's an indicator that he's been in that condition for a while. Is he dead? But he's what? Mm-hmm. Push the rest of it. Just play again, just real quick. I don't want to pause it too long. Can we do it like that? Push play again. Continuation. Unpause. Okay. I see how we'll have to do it. We have to keep going back. Now, this is something I've never tried to do before, so thank God for our team who's I just kind of pulled this together and needed them to help me. Watch him here in just a second. Everybody keep getting this picture because this is you at the party. This is you in the club. This is you back on the street. This is you. This is you. Well, I don't know why they keep bothering me. Why the pastor calling me? Well, because if I don't, you won't get up. Freeze. Okay, y'all stop. Couldn't film him getting up from a distance because I can't help him up from a distance. Got to get right to him. That's why the last little piece of video you saw with him up, it was very close because now the person filming this real life situation, this happens today. You can go around sheep tomorrow, and if one is cast, you'll see the exact same thing. I had a friend of mine who was a sheepman, and there's not a friend of mine, just a friend and acquaintance guy that I met, because when I start talking about different animals, different sheep, and things like that, people get on the same kind of conversation. And he said he had a bunch of sheep, and one of his sheep was really notorious for being a cast sheep. Just always wanted from the pack. When I talk about sheep, I'm talking about who? Okay, that's us now. It's not an I'm, that's the Lord now. He calls us his sheep. Somebody in here tonight, somebody watching on the internet, you're notorious for wandering off. Everything attracts you because everything is attractive. But every spring that sheep, he was telling me, became heavy in lamb. Okay? And so it wasn't uncommon for her to become cast every second or third day. Heavy in lamb means she's pregnant. So she became heavy in lamb, and so he said that only his diligence made it possible for that sheep to survive to the next season. She had season by season. He said, but I'll guarantee you, Pastor, it was my diligence that made her get there. I had to stay on her all the time. Some of you don't like, Pastor, why are you always on me? Because you in lamb. God wouldn't put you around us if he didn't know that there's something that's about to come out of you. You're not going to just fool around with your life and just destroy you. Some of the things and decisions you're making about being cast is affecting what God's trying to birth through you. So he said he would go out there and constantly have to catch this same sheep. She just was notorious. So he said, what I did one day, I had to go out of town. I called my son. I told my son to be beside her and stay with her and be responsible for her well-being while I was absent. And he said, if you just manage to keep this sheep alive until I get back, he told me that he told his son he would pay him well or give him a raise, give him a John Deere tractor. I don't know what he told him. I really wasn't paying that much attention to that part of it. But he said every evening after the boy would get out of school, the son would go home and he'd go out in the fields, and just a regular routine, and he'd make sure he'd look for her and he'd tilt her back up again. And it was a task, but he was given a real nice reward, because at the end of her delivery, she brought him twin lambs that next spring. Okay? And so it was the sheepman and the shepherd combined who would watch out for that particular sheep. But listen, it wasn't just them watching out for the sheep. There were also, y'all use this word, there were, say, predators. There are people that are just sitting around waiting on you to get paid. No, see, your paycheck, you're pregnant with amen. No. See, some of y'all getting paid at the end of the month, at the first. Some of you sisters, you getting checks. And so predators watch. They'll compliment what you drive, compliment how you look, hang around, follow you to your car, open up your door on your side. Call you sister, beautiful, glorious, gorgeous, wonderful, child of king, anointed, beautiful princess. Brothers, the same way, the few of you that are still hanging around here. Flatter you, call you man of God, king, Kong, I don't know. You like that. You start ironing all your pants because you're getting complimented. Put a part in your head so thick it cut your scalp. You bleeding, but you cute. So they weren't just sitting there watching themselves. Predators were watching them. Coyotes, dogs, cougars. They all knew that a cast sheep is easy prey. And they knew that a sheep turned upside down is almost dead. Please hear the word that God is speaking to us these next few nights. Some of you have been flipped upside down and you're still kicking. Kicking to some people means you're having a blast. But the one who purchased you said, Rickie, they're dying. And predators know it. Yeah, you're getting paid. But you haven't been flipped over to go give God his. Nothing seems to interfere with the sheepman's constant care of those sheep. Nothing gets his attention. The largest, fattest, strongest, and sometimes the healthiest sheep can become cast. And that becomes a different type of a casualty. Some people think that cast sheep are the weak sheep. No. It's often the fat sheep that are most easily cast. Rich people have reasons to miss church. Poor folk ain't got nowhere else to go. So rich folk die and they make the news. Poor folk die, we make the morning news obituary section if it ain't too much. Just about right about that much. So don't think that the more wealthy you get, the more you're in danger of not being cast. You all are the ones that will have sweet tickets to go to games. You get first class tickets to do things. You get star-studded events. And they become so frequent that all you need to do is to think, well, I didn't make church this week. I can watch it online while I'm at the dance. That's like trying to dry off with the shower running. If you drying off while the shower's running, that's called a bath. You just fooling yourself. The towel is wet and you are too. The way it happens is this. A heavy, fat, long fleeced sheep will lay down comfortably in some kind of hollow hole in the ground, and it may roll on its side to maybe stretch out its legs. All it's trying to do is get comfortable. And suddenly the center of gravity in its body shifts so that it turns on its back just far enough that the feet no longer touch the ground. She was just stretching, getting comfortable, getting used to the things around it. But she flipped so much that one foot that was stabled in came off the ground. And so now the center of gravity has changed, and it may feel a sense of panic and start to paw frantically, and frequently this just makes things worse. Can't roll over any further. Now it's impossible for this sheep to regain its feet. Are y'all still with me? So as it lies there struggling, I just want you to know why casting is so important. As it lies there struggling, the gases begin to build up in the rumen, which are the stomach area. The gases start to build up in the stomach. And as they expand, they tend to cut off the blood circulation to the extremities of the body. So as he's laying on his back, there's no circulation getting to the feet. If the weather is hot and sunny, that cast sheep is going to die in just a few hours. But if it's cool, maybe cloudy and a little rainy, it'll survive in that position for several days. The sheepman has to know the condition that the sheep is struggling in. For some of you, it's hot right now. Satan is counting down. But for some of you, you're struggling and it's kind of cool. But death is inevitable if the sheepman doesn't find you. If the cast sheep is what we call a ewe, say ewe. I don't see if I can write on this part, I don't know. If the cast sheep, I don't want to move this for a second, but if the cast sheep is a ewe, okay, that means that if this is a ewe, it's a female. Okay, that's another name if you ever hear someone talk about a ewe. And I have to be real specific about this now because I want you to see your value. If the cast sheep is a ewe, then when it dies, there's multiple loss to the owner. If the lambs are unborn, they perish with the mother. If they are young and sucklings on the mother, they become orphans. And so without the mother to feed them, if she gets stuck and her babies are already born, then they become orphans and they eventually could die too. All of this adds to a very serious situation. Are y'all still with me? Pastor, what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about being restored or destroyed. So it'll be seen by a sheepman's attention to alert himself that this is a bigger problem than I realized, because one of the ewes has flipped over now. So watch her, because there's something else inside of her that's adding a potential danger to the one that I bought. Remember, you've been purchased. It's not that big sometimes to the shepherd, because he's been hired to look at what the owner purchased. But to the, y'all getting it? Okay, let's just, okay, you're the sheep, right? And so in this case, the sheepman is who? Oh, y'all haven't gotten it. The sheepman is God. He bought you. If you attend church here, then I could be called what they call the under shepherd, the shepherd. I didn't buy you. I don't necessarily know when you've been cast. I don't know when you're out there. But the owner will say to the shepherd, speak a word. Diane knows where she is. She'll go get her. But speak a word. Don't speak an opinion. Because that's what they ran from, the word. But they still love me. That just was more word coming from the outside than inside. So just so know that. He owns you. So that's why God makes so many efforts at providing for you. That's a part of that whole leave the 99 and send out that word for that one. So I've noticed that as I've watched and tried to raise a few little lamb, they get a little different. They're different. And if one fellow said that if his sheep had been down for a long time, when he would lift one of his sheep up, he had to start now massaging her feet. Because even though she's back up, she can no longer function because she's been down so long. So if he left her like he found her, she's still going to die, because the dying process had already started. See, if the world puts more flattery on you than church, you've been out there so long, you'll come a couple of Sundays, but you're going to get missed being called fine and cute and somebody, you know what I'm saying? So that's why in church, those of us that are here, it's up to us to sometimes massage. In other words, praise people. Congratulate them and thank them for being in church. Because you'll leave church and get praised and thanked. And so he said, I had to rub her feet and had to make sure she was standing up, and I could not leave her the way I found her, because she would eventually flip over again. And then when he talked about this one particular little lamb or sheep that he was talking when he met her out there in the fields and going out. And if I would ever have turned up the volume on this video that I found here, you would hear all the way there, the sheepman is talking to her. He's not, oh my God, Because she's already panicked. He would talk to her very gently and say, it's going to be all right, dear. I am here. I'm going to be right with you. Don't worry. I see you panicking. And then he would go up to her and say things like, oh my, you foolish little girl, you flipped over again. It's going to be all right. And before he flipped her over, he would talk gently to her. See, God knows his children. Sometimes your speech indicates that you're serving the buzzard and not the deliverer. See, God has not given you the spirit of fear. Therefore, when he is present, you just know everything is all right. So as he rubbed their feet little by little, they would regain their strength and their equilibrium would become stronger, and it would start to walk a little wobbly at first, but they would make it all right. Those of you that are here tonight clapping your hands, waving your hands, saying hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, go on, preacher, and all that stuff, you need to come on a little forward and let people know what you're really doing. What you're really doing is saying to them, he restores my soul. That's what he's saying. See, they don't know when your blood pressure was down, when your diabetes number was up. They don't realize you lost a child. They don't realize you survived an abuse. They don't know all of that stuff because when they met you, you were up. They see your hands up, but somebody ought to join every once in a while and saying, we have these 3 nights coming up. Why? Because I'm restored and not destroyed. Yes! The pastor told us to come 3 nights. Why? Because the sheepman said, I need some time with my sheep. Round them up. Death is walking through their families. Death is walking into their lives. Death is creeping back into the pasture. I need to check them out. God is taking roll tonight. He's not trying to find out what you've done wrong. He was there when you did it wrong. He's trying to let you know that you count and I'm restoring you. At this point, we need to understand how this fits us as Christians. Many people have the idea. Why did I just say all of that I just said? Many people have the idea that children of God don't fall. Oh, no, that's why y'all so hard on each other. You will even say yourself with your own hypocritical mouth, I can't believe she said that and she's supposed to be saved. I can't believe you said she said that and you're supposed to be saved. I can't believe he did that. He's supposed to be saved. He is saved, but he fell down saved. I can't believe she's on her back. She's a sheep. You've been told that when you go into a spiritual dilemma of falling, a struggle, that God becomes disgusted, fed up, and even furious with you. That's not the case. If you go later on and just listen to, I don't know what you can look up. I think we'll look under fallen sheep or upside down sheep or something like that. You just Google it, you'll see. You're going to hear not one sheepman ever fusses at the sheep that are in trouble. One of the trademarks of your spiritual maturity is how you treat people when they've fallen. No, if you've ever been with God, okay, scratch that because all y'all gonna say we've been with God. If you've ever been restored, you knew the voice to listen to. I can have people to come to me today that can tell me things. I'd listen to how they speak. I don't care about what they say, not at my age. If your stuff is from God, it's your presentation. I told y'all the story about the time I was drowning out there at that pool when we didn't have many black people allowed to get out there. Back in 1970, I was swimming at Walnut Hill Park. And these people convinced me that I could swim. I knew I couldn't swim. I could swim in little water. I could swim as long as I was doing like this. So I thought it was the same. See, I'd never been in deep water before. So it just looked all the same. But on this end, they let me dive off the board. The diving board was like, it's probably way up there somewhere. Because I was about this tall. That diving board looked like it was like next to Jesus. I'm thinking, what? I got up there, and I was sitting there. I was getting ready to dive. And I was all confident when I climbed up there. When I got up there, you know, that ash broke loose. And you up on top of that diving board, and I looked like I had leprosy, just turned pure white. And so I'm sitting up on that board, and when I'm up on that diving board, I'm getting ready to dive. I got to do my thing. But I'm scared because now I know I'm going to hit the bottom, and I couldn't dive. And I'm just turning white because that chlorine or something it was cooking me up there. And I'm on that diving board for a long time, and I got to the edge. And all these different white people in the pool. You can do it, come on. And all my little black friends that went with me, my brother and sister, them over there cracking up, he finna die. And there I am. Man, I knew I couldn't swim, but I was out there on that limb. And what made me jump was how sweet the white people talked. And I'm not racist. I'm not the black and white guy. So they were just white. They were just white. And at this point, I'm getting whiter, so I'm just like, okay. And then I remember them saying, come on, you're really good. We've been watching you dive. You're going to be all right. Long line of people right behind me trying to get on the pool, trying to get on the diving board. Come on, you can do it. And they soft-talked me. And I dove in. It was pretty. I got to say, sometimes death can be real pretty. I dove in. I hit the water. I never forget that sound. That's me. I just kept going down. And I'm thinking to myself, I ought to be standing up right now. I ought to be standing up. And then I heard the most wonderful noise. That was the white lifeguard. She was coming down after me, boy. I'm like, that's why I say to this day, you let me hear you talk about a white woman, I'll mess you up. White woman saved my life. Africans over there just cracking up, laughing. Cracking up. But when the Lord comes to you, he's very tender. God told me several years ago, change how you preach. I want you to teach the word. I want you to teach, and I want you to be simple. Because there are too many people now making me look like a brutal God. I'm not going to even force anybody to come to me. I just give them the invitation and ask them if they want to. I'm here to accept them. And that's how God started to speak to us. And that's this message that he's talking to us tonight. When you read the story of Jesus, how he conducted his life and how he coped with people. One of the revelations of the heart of God that's given to us by Christ is that he has sensations of anxiety and compassion for men and women who've been cast. When God sees people in their lives upside down, it moves him. Are y'all with me? And that's why he looked on all of us that were on our way to hell upside down, and he had compassion. And he said, I'll go down for them, and I'll turn that situation around. And that's why the Bible talks about him weeping over people and had such affection when people looked like they were dying and couldn't help themselves. That's why when a man dying on a cross was dying and said, Lord, remember me, Jesus wept because he knew this man was upside down. And he was close enough to turn that guy's situation around, even if it had to be in paradise. And this is what helps us to understand sometimes with undone people in whom the Lord he came eagerly and quickly and ready to help and save and to restore. It talks about him being a good shepherd, picking up people whose lives had turned around. People like Peter, who had messed up terribly. Peter was like bragging all that stuff. You know, God, I'll be with you, and I love you. And who do you think loves you the most? And I don't care what happens, I'll always be down with you, Jesus, and I love you. And you hear all that stuff. And then as soon as somebody else comes along, Peter was like, yeah, I'm down with y'all too. I don't know Jesus. And that's why when Jesus came back from the dead, he told the sister, go out there, Mary, and tell all of them that I'm risen. Tell my disciples to meet me. Tell them I'm okay. Tell them I have come from the grave. Oh, and tell Peter too. He didn't have to say, and Peter too, but Peter, y'all don't get it. All of them were together, but Peter was out here because Peter knew he messed up. But God said, I don't care how you messed up, man. I'm going to come. Not only am I going to send the word to everybody, I'm going to send you an email, a personalized thing. I'm going to send you your stuff personal. Somebody in this room is getting a personal message from the Lord right now. You don't want to hear it, but God says, I need you to hear it. You can find everything wrong with the message, but the messenger said, I'm talking to you. And so he comes because the Lord knows I don't have much time when I'm on my back. And he comes quickly. You've told people before, man, it could have been like any minute. And I just would have died. And the doctor said, and then the car, and then in the fire, and then somebody came in, and it's the people, and he came quickly. And you know the way your life was going. The Lord led you to church and led you to the altar and changed your life instantly. You didn't have many years to go. Other people did, but you didn't. We got to be realistic about life as a child of God and the things that we face. Most of us, though we are Christians, we want to be under his control and we want to be led by him. And yet, following him, we still find ourselves cast down. Now, Pastor, that's not me. Well, then you're better than David. That's how we started the scripture, remember? Now the scripture starts to make maybe a little bit more sense to us, because now here's a guy that was a man after God's own heart, but he says, I love you, Lord. I give you all of my time and all of my everything. Is this lasting too long? Are y'all okay? But he says, I'm after you, but God, I'm cast down. I don't miss church. I don't miss praising you. I don't miss worshiping you. But for some strange reason, Lord, I am cast down. Sometimes when we seem to be the strongest that we've ever been in our lives, we find ourselves in situations that are totally frustrating us. How can a person be at the top of their game like you are right now, but have so much frustration going on? Your stuff is not like everybody else. Maybe you're not on the bottle, maybe you're not on a habit, maybe you're not addicted to something, but something else is just totally flipped upside down, and you know it could be so much better. And it's amazing that the sheepman watched you from a distance so that when he turns you over, you'll know it was him. Because everybody else watched you on your back. Anyway. Paul said, and he warned the Corinthians of this danger. He said, wherefore, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. He said, none of us are beyond being flipped. This is why when, anybody can flip. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute. But this is why when people tend to leave church, they stay gone. Because some people paint the picture, I'll never fall. And so when you do, you have so much pride. You have to make it like a decision. You didn't fall. You just separated. Are we okay? So, we're Christians. There are some things that we have to do. There are some things that we did that can cause us to flip, cause us to cast. And I didn't want to bring all of this up tonight without at least showing you how you ended up on your back. Or if you're okay now, I just at least want to show you about 3 quick ways that you can identify, oh, shoots, I'm about to cast. But I'm talking about sheep. I'm talking about sheep. There are some ways that you can tell when a sheep is about to cast. And I did this, and I meant to go back and change it. No French. We're going to talk about sheep. Amen. Because I don't want anybody to go out of here tonight mad. So we're going to talk about sheep. 3 reasons why sheep flip, cast, end up upside down. All right. First of all, we're looking for a soft spot. I'm going to say sheep, not you. They are. I don't feel like spelling. Why do they flip? Because they're looking for a soft spot. You notice in the picture that I showed you earlier, and all those you'll never see a sheep too much cast on dirt. This is how we start to flip over. We look for that comfortable spot. We look for that comfortable ground around us. A situation that's so easy for us to roll over on our backs into. People from the past. Things that used to satisfy you that you've gotten over, but now they come back, and it just reminds you of your good old days when you didn't know you were dying, and grace came out there and saved you. Other folk that you know of have all kind of issues, health issues. They are dying, and everybody knows it. You right now are the symbol of good health. Well, why are we talking about this? Because some of you right now are still looking for you're looking for a soft spot. In the Christian life, there's a great danger in always looking for the easy place, the cozy corner. You can have a person working diligently in church, but they want to keep the cozy corner position. So what can I do to say I serve, but it won't take any work? Look for the soft spot. What's the soft spot? Can I just work from my seat and say I'm on the wave team? That's pretty good. We want the comfortable position where there is no hardship, no need for endurance. There is no demand upon our self-discipline. Can we do tithing on time on Sunday morning? What? That's church service. I know. Why can't we do it on Sunday morning instead of having to come back Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? Because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's kind of rough, Pastor. You need to make it where people can come. Why? Because we need to have a soft, comfortable place. Where? Like at home. Can we just start doing church online? I'll watch all the time if we could just do it online. Look at somebody and say, you lying. You can't even pay attention sitting up in the sanctuary. Right now, you texting somebody, finding out who's calling you. How you going to do that and sit there? We can't compete with NFL channel. The time that we think we have it made is actually when we get into what I call mortal danger. Jesus suggested this to the rich young ruler. He said, I'll tell you what, take everything you have. If you really want to be with the Lord, if you really want to see the kingdom, take everything you have, just a suggestion, take everything you have and give to the poor. And the man was like, are you crazy? I mean, I want to go to heaven, but I ain't going to go to hell getting there. And so sometimes we want to do it the soft way, the easy way, the cozy corner. And then we want the Lord to kind of move us. But if we just do it the good way, the good shepherd maybe will move me into a pasture where things are not so comfortable. Because if it wasn't so comfortable, I would not have been tempted to roll over. You can't lay down in here. You can lean over so far, and after a while, that lady going, get up. Sometimes God will lead you into a position that's not so comfortable. Not just for my own good, but also for his benefit as well. So one of the ways that people cast, is because we keep looking for a soft spot. It means something that you're out here, quote, sacrificing your time. This is not a soft spot. Well, can they change it to Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Well, can they just change it like before we go to work? Have it at 5 in the morning. We can have it at your house. You'd go somewhere else. Y'all open up, I'll be back. So just a thought. There's a reason that sheep cast, because they're looking for a soft spot. Sometimes God is making things a little bit uncomfortable so that you won't roll over and die. When you work for money, you don't spend it. When people give it to you, you buy everything everybody else wants. When you work for your money and it's hard to get, you start raising a little sand about the light bill. Y'all turn these lights off in here. When you don't have to work the lights, when you don't have to work for it, you turn the light on. You leave the refrigerator light open. When you start paying for the light bill, you unscrew the oven light. I can tell when food is done. You unscrew the refrigerator light, the freezer light, period. You don't even want the sun to shine. Sun coming in, making the house hot. Put the drapes up. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. You have to make it a little uncomfortable. All right. If people are at your house and you don't want them to stay, what do? Make it uncomfortable. Girl, my air gone. You do that old crazy stuff. I'm not teaching y'all bad habits. They come over to all them kids, girl, my water not running. They're going to have to go to the restroom at the stove. Y'all, we got to go. And you're like, that's bad. But sometimes we flip over because we're looking for a soft spot. Are we okay? Let's go to number 2 real quick. Sometimes the reason sheep, not us, the reason sheep cast is they have too much wool. They, not we, sheep. Because nobody's going to get mad. They have too much wool. Now, let me tell you why another reason that they flip over is because there are so many things sometimes that get caught up in sheep wool. Sheep wool is very nappy, okay? It's nappy. When I say nappy, it's kinky. It's tough. It's you get stuff stuck in it. Can't come out. I'm not looking at nobody's head right now. I'm studying the word, man. I'm just right here, right now. But it's fleece. It's called fleece. And so they have their hairs too long and it becomes matted. Matted with what? Their environment, mud, manure. Sheep are the stench around sheep is incredible because their hair grows, their fleece grows around their exit areas. Birds from the grass get into them and other junk. And so sometimes it's easy for a sheep to get heavy and weighed down with his own wool. And that wool comes from his own environment. And there's just so much going on. And wool in the scripture depicts what we call an old self. You can come so overloaded with your old self that who you used to be catches up with what you have now, and it starts to add to you. It's the area of your life in which what you thought you were through catches up with you again. And so now you walk around with an accumulation of all of your old habits that came back. And it's caused you to get a little top heavy. And it drags you down and it holds you down. And kicking, trying to get up, your gravity changes. It's you trying to say I'm saved and I don't drink as much as I used to. But you don't know it because you've gotten used to how much you drink. And you don't know that you're laying down again because your environment has now flooded you out. And you're comparing yourself to the worst person instead of the new you. Well, at least I don't do like blah, 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 blah. So it's significant for you to understand that the high priests in the Bible, they were never allowed to wear wool whenever they went into the Holy of Holies to pray. This spoke of self, and it spoke of pride, and it spoke of a personal preference. And God could not tolerate them coming to pray with him with all of that old self on them. If I wish to go on walking with God and not be forever cast down, then this is an aspect of my life which I have to deal with drastically and realizing that daily I've got to shave. Actually, when it's all over, the sheep actually needs to be sheared. Now, the sheep at the fair and all that, they've been trained to be sheared. Those sheep will sit constantly. They won't move because that's how they gain their trophies in first place. The wool is intact, but they have their mannerisms while they're being cut. Please understand all of this is so important. We didn't come out here for a clap session. However, sheep don't like to be sheared. When it's time to shear a sheep, they're all over the place. They don't like that because it hurts. It hurts to get rid of wool. Because you're going deeper than the surface. You're going beneath the nap. You're going underneath all the filth. You're going through all the mud. You're trimming out areas that they don't know have been damaged and contaminated and filthy. And you're trying to shear them so you can get the wool off. And usually after the wool is off, they jump around because they're so happy to be free. But they will fight you. They will kill you. They don't literally kill you, but they'll stomp you to death to keep you from getting them clean. That don't sound like church. Sounds like sheep. Because when you start cutting off that old life, people will love church as long as it's rocking, it's thumping, it's jamming, it reminds them of the outside, it's good, it's friendly, but when it starts to affect the old self, I got to find somewhere else so they can't tell me how to live. That's why God told me, just use the two-edged sword. Because if people are going to leave, son, they're going to leave. But they can't say they left the way they came in. At least there'll be some shedding on the way out the door. What a restoration. The last reason that we cast. Because they, and please don't leave now. I'll be through this real quick. The reason that they fall on their backs and die is because they're too fat. It's a known fact that overfat sheep are neither the most healthy nor the most productive sheep out there. And it's certain that the fattest is the most often that's cast. The fattest are the most often the ones that are cast. Their weight just simply makes it too hard for them to move around. They can't get back on their feet because they're too fat. And the sheepman suspects this. He knows when they're getting fat. He can tell they're getting fat. So what the sheepman will do is sometimes cut back not just this sheep's diet, but that may affect all of the sheep. He'll put those ewes, remember those females, on a different kind of diet with less grain so that he can watch the whole flock carefully, because when they get too fat, they can't function. And it's this aim that we have to see the sheep are strong. He's got to make sure that they're sturdy and energetic, not fat, not flabby, and not weak. Pastor, what are you saying? God told us a few weeks ago that our blessings are becoming our distractions. When we get fat, we easily flip over. You have more now than you've ever had, some of you. You're making more than you've ever made before. You're living in neighborhoods that you used to cut out of magazines. But you're flipping over, God says. You don't give him the time you used to. Turning to Christian life, we're confronted with the same sort of problem. Men and women all alike, because we've done well in our businesses, we've done well in our careers, we've done well in our homes. And we're starting to flourish in front of people. And some will say, thank God I've arrived. Lord, I'm finally seeing my dream come true. And you have a sense of well-being, a sense of self-assurance. And this sometimes is the most dangerous part of our lives, because that's when we're more prone to fall flat. And it's because we just get too fat. Now, I know somebody says, I'm blessed and I'm better than blessed. You fat. God wants us healthy, but you got unhealthy fat. And it would be different if you follow God's instructions by giving so that you could stay trim. But if you gave $100 6 years ago and now you're making $6,000 a week, you still giving that $100. Fat, everything about you has increased except your giving. And now everybody around you is being drawn to you because you're such a wonderful person. No, 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 you're not. They're drawn to your fat. And your wool is thicker. And now the claws of others, even at a distance, can get caught up in you because your wool is so thick, you don't know who's in your hair. In his warning in the book of Revelations, the Lord said, I know you inside and out, and find little to my liking. You're not cold, and you're not hot. Or better for you to either be cold or hot, you're just stale. And you're stagnant. Now, this is him talking. You know you could do better. You know you could give more. You know you could sit through church without complaining. You know you could praise me more. You know you could be at church on time just like you are at every doggone meeting you have to come to that doesn't benefit you anything at all. They're not giving you promotions. They're not raising you. But boy, they can sure count on you. You will break your neck, get tickets, kill folk on the freeway just so you can get a compliment. But if church starts too early or lasts too long, it's too much because you're fat. He says, you make me want to vomit. You brag to your people about how many raises you have and how many promotions you have. You even let them know, and they will say to you, ooh, I think you must be rich. And you say, I've got it made. I don't need nothing from anybody. I can do it without all of y'all. Oblivious that, in fact, you're a pitiful blind beggar. You're begging for attention. You're begging for notoriety. You're begging for a place. Threadbare and homeless. And you don't even realize how far you are. God says that we may consider ourselves rich, and some of the most affluent people in the world are actually very desperate people. And the same point that Jesus made in the account of a wealthy farmer who intended to build more and more and more and more and more, but who was in fact faced with bitterness. Every time God gives us to give, y'all, he gives us so that we can give to others. Let me share with you, because I've been a part of both. I did. And it amazes people it constantly amazes me, because that's grace. His grace is amazing for me. But it amazes me to know how much effort we put into material success. It is amazing now that people value your success on how much they can see you have. Material success is no measure of your spiritual wealth and your spiritual health. As a matter of fact, it seems the more we gain materially, the less we praise God openly. I've just noticed, I just want us one day to just have, this is not a good word, kids don't listen to this. I just want us to have a good old-fashioned snot slinging. I'm not talking about one of these where I say, oh, y'all come on up and just do it when no, I'm not talking about a self-propelled so we can act like we're, but I just, the Lord's been preparing my heart again to teach on healing, because most of us have been financially blessed, but we have not been healed of debt. And we're flipped upside down and we're dying. When you come to God, let me tell you this. This is the last thing I want to say, this because I got to make sure we get home. God may very well put you on a little bit of what I call some kind of diet of a discipline. This is what we're doing now. See, this next 3 days, somebody's going to come into your life and offer you another diet. But you have to say, I'm full. I'm full. I have made an obligation, and I've made an obligation to be with God. I got to get up early in the morning, have to go to work at night. I'm going to come. I've got to leave a little early, but Lord, I'm going to come. Otherwise, I guarantee you, someone's going to come with an invitation that is going to require that you get filled with so much other stuff that you become overstuffed with yourself. So we need to reassure ourselves that God is with us and he's fond of us. And for his own reputation as the good shepherd, his own reputation as the sheepman, that people look at us and they can tell what we're filled with. And everywhere we go, our lives are a reflection of him. And so we have to know that the toughness it takes to face life and the fear it brings to us can come only through discipline. Life is frightening if you're not disciplined in serving God. And in mercy, God says, I want to pour some things into you. We don't stay in church like this, but now on these weeknights. But now there's just something that God has had to say to somebody. You've been living on the streets. You've been living in your car. You've been living off other people. You've been smiling, but you're not happy. You've been happy, but you can't smile. You've been restored. Or you're just looking restored, but you've been destroyed. People sitting right next to you can't tell. You look like you're having fun on your back, kicking your feet. That's party mode. But to a buzzard, that's death mode. And to the shepherd, to the sheepman, The Lord says, I need to push you over because you're going to die around the very people that think you're having a blast in life. So we'll never really expect, God never expects to give us any more than we can bear. He knows how much you can handle. And we get fat on our own. We get fat because we start counting our own dollars, counting our own stuff, counting our own. I saw a documentary the other day, Michael Jackson, and I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed because I just think Michael Jackson was still just a very brilliant talent, whatever. I'm not going to go into that, but it's just amazing. And when you leave this world, it's like sometimes people can try to attach so much spirituality to you when in reality, all you wanted was a sense of saying, God, flip me over. I'm so fat, I don't know how to hug. I want to be hugged all the time. God knows how much you can bear. Closing scripture. Last scripture. 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians 10, 13 through 15. Message Bible says, no test or temptation that comes your way is beyond the course of what others have had to face. You're not the only one who's been here. You're not. All you need to remember is that God will never let you stay cast. Here's a word, never. Never. And if you're in here tonight and you're saying, well, church was a little long, then this wasn't for you. But thank you for allowing someone else to see that you cared enough because you're going to get here. He'll never let you be pushed. That's when you get with them fat friends. They're the ones that told you, let's go out and buy something at a store, and you know it was your credit card. You got past your limit. God gave you the discipline and said, no, now you're hitting into my offering, baby. I can't go. We can go to the fair, but if I spend all my money, then that becomes unfair. That's not fair. He'll always be there. Always be there to help you come. I thought, Sister Linda, that God would prevent. I didn't know when I got myself in it, he would help me through it. He's not going to prevent it. He's not. So, my very dear friends, when you see people reducing God to something that they can use or control, get out of their company as fast as you can. I need the church for my benefit. I need the church to do what because I'm trying to get somewhere. I need the church for some clientele, for some business. I need church. Get out of their face as fast as you can. I assume I'm addressing believers now who are mature. That means we can't go home and mad. I believe now it sounds like I wrote this, but no, this is word, y'all. I don't want you to give up on your life. God doesn't want you to think that because you're on your back, legs in the air, that he doesn't see you and he is not on the way. He, through his word tonight, has told you, you can turn back over. And it's going to be different the next time around. But it's not the last time that you're going to get cast. Somebody in this room been cast probably 5 times this year. But God keeps flipping you over. But God keeps bringing you back. I know who I'm talking to tonight. I know I'm talking to believers who are very mature in the Lord, and I appreciate you all coming tonight. We have prepared dinner for you. Every time you give in the church, it's a seed. Something's going to come from it. I don't care if we don't sell much here. We have a store, but everything else is pretty much free. Tomorrow night, children's food will be free for the first 10 kids. No, I'm just teasing. Before we give our offering, I just want you tonight, because somebody came tonight, man, you were really looking for a word from God, and I know you got it. And sometimes when school is quiet and your writing is penetrating, I appreciate it. I know you have to run, and so we're going to run right out. But I want you to bow your heads and just repeat this prayer with me tonight. Say, dear Lord, it's hard for me to believe how much individual time you gave me tonight. You spoke to me while I was on my back. I fought you the first time you spoke to me. But you stayed by me and you flipped me over and put me back on my feet. My soul has been restored. Forgive me, Lord, for getting angry at the wrong people, at the brothers and sisters of Christ, when it was me that separated myself from the fold. And you let me stay out there just long enough to gain a new appreciation for the fellowship. I have friends and family members who have been cast down. But now that I know that you're the God of mercy and that you'll never put any more on me than I can bear, I'm asking you, Lord, to use me to flip them back over so they can get back in the fold. It is amazing to me that you love me even when I'm upside down. Thank you for the plan you have for my life. Thank you for the gift that you've given me. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. There are baskets that are going to be passed here in just a second. Ushers have envelopes in their hands, but they also have the baskets in their hands right now. There are 2 baskets they're holding. You're going to hold up your offering. Some of you have never given online before. You have been totally anti. You don't understand that, and I understand because I've been there before. But if you'd like to try it this week, if you'd like to just go online, if you'd like to go online wherever you are online with us, I cannot, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, mature Christians, I cannot apologize for what time it is, but I'm going to thank God for what time you have left. Every one of us in here are extremely busy. But can I tell you something? The reason you're busy is because you have planted something. And what God is bringing into you is going to require somebody who's diligent enough to be able to handle him and the blessing. You go home and you rest. Mom, Dad, don't fuss about the food on the counter. And this is one of those weeks where the clothes may be a little, you got your own house rules. And don't give yourself a hard time because you didn't fold this. You got stuff all around the house. You're coming from work. You're going to give God time. You're coming from work. You're going to give God time. You're getting up in the morning. You're putting on something else that you did. Take it easy on yourself. Take it easy on yourself. Cut yourself some slack. Tie your hair up in a bow. Throw something up on top of it. Those of you that can do what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Cut yourself some slack. Cut yourself some slack now. You're giving God time. Satan's going to whisper in your ear and tell you, you're not strong enough. You know you're tired. You know you're all that stuff. But you got to tell him, I know I'm delivered. I know I'm restored. And I know I'm not destroyed. He restored my soul. Is there any more God can say to us from this scripture tomorrow night? Any more that God can say to us about being sheep? Come back and find out. Now I want you to touch somebody else's offering. Just put your hand, present your offering. Hold it up. Hold it up. No, and if not, go ahead and you're going to give online. I want you to bless somebody else's offering. Say, Lord, in the name of Jesus, thank you for my sister or brother who's giving what they have, in return, receiving what they need. Satan, take your hands off of my offering and off of my brother or sister's offering. In Jesus' name, amen. Baskets are passing. As soon as the baskets pass, you give your offering. Amen. If this message blessed you, can you get on your feet right quick? Just real quick. If it didn't, Turn to that person and ask them, what happened? Okay, I'm looking to see who it didn't bless. Because if your legs hurt, amen. So it didn't bless those three over there. I'm going to talk to y'all after church. We're going to have after church blessing. Amen. If it blessed you. If it blessed you. All right, now you can have a seat. Because I just want to see. This is not regular Monday school now. We're in a whole different tutoring session this week. Tomorrow night our children sing. Now the children are going to force me to hurry up and preach because they're going to start snoring and stuff, but I don't want to hurry up. So y'all come in, we're going to start on time. We're going to let them sing. We're going to give them the opportunity to be a blessing. Somebody dropped this money in the Westmoreland lobby. If you dropped some monies in the Westmoreland lobby, check your purse, pocket, and all of that, and see if you dropped some. Check your money. Check your money.